Hello everybody, my name's Rob. Welcome to my workshop, Man Cave, in West Auckland, New Zealand. I'd like to introduce you to my beautiful girl. It is a 1931 Fairey Gordon biplane bomber. It's the sole surviving Royal Air Force bomber that came to New Zealand in 1940 after serving 10 years. And we have records of the Sudan, Iraq, Egypt, and of course England. When I was working in a museum as a volunteer 7 some years ago, I was wanting to look for my own project, and one of the gentlemen there suggested that I should go and see a guy called Charles Darby, or his nickname is Bunny Darby. He is the go-to guy. He's been looking for old aeroplane wrecks. He's rescued P-40s and all sorts of other aircraft from the Pacific in the 70s. So I went and found him. He was in Auckland, and he met me at Ardmore Airport in Auckland. And I asked him, have you got any projects? Well, he had the usual, the P-40s, other bits and pieces. But then he goes, I have one that no one's seen for 30, 40 years now. It's in a container, we'd have to dig it out. I said, what is it? And he said, just come and have a look. Well, when we got in there, we pulled out drop tanks and old radios on the container. And in the back there, I could see an aircraft. I didn't recognize what it was, but I could see there was a lot of it. Just couldn't get to it. It was a true barn find, in my opinion. And I made a deal with Charles that if I could buy the shelving, we could come in one day, or a very hot summer's day as it was, me and a bunch of mates, and we would pull out the parts and the bits and pieces and put them on shelves in another container and leave the Gordon, as I found out she was, in the other container, so I could then lay her out with an air crash investigation. Luckily in Motat there was a gentleman called, he was an ex-squadron leader, Royal Air Force. He had done this sort of recovery before, so I left it to him to lie it all down on the tarmac outside the container, and we can attach a photograph of that. And he gave a detailed list of what was here. That afternoon we put it back in the container, and I started to get my head around what the project would entail. I had another friend in Motat, he's ex-Air New Zealand, and his name was Frank Hannay. He just passed recently, but without him I could not have done this project. He'd forgotten more than what most people will ever know. And he opened his double garage, said to me, bring the engines. Let's just start with the engines, never get ahead of ourselves, never had 10 projects going at once. Let's start with the engines. So again, I will add a before what I had to start with. There were 2 engines that had come from an overseas museum. One needed to be restored and sent back there, just a static display, just all cosmetic. It was a big job. It took us about a year just on the engines, but in the meantime a lot of research was done, finding out how we could progress the next phase and the next parts and the next bits and pieces. Sometimes we would get a part and send it out, farm it out to somebody else. Things like the exhaust pipes were flattened, crushed. I found a blacksmith, gave it to him. It took him a long time, but he did it, and he did such a great job. Kept the patina, kept all of those sort of things. Just cataloguing, finding out where all the parts belonged, where they survived, because anything that was original I wanted to keep. I mean, when you realize that we started with bits that look like this, I would use sandbags very carefully, not try to stretch the aluminium, just keep the patina, don't ruin what's the original, what is here. I'm a guy that likes rust, patchy paint. If you're going along around the aircraft, you might see some green paint. That was actually purposely done to show where I have flitched or stitched or what isn't original. That was to impress upon people that there is 85% of the aeroplane is original and it's been kept. The silver panels, they exist in a big box, but some were just too badly done, too badly crushed, couldn't repair them. And this is where I come to my idea, and that was to dress half of an aircraft. These panels are all brand new, but I have all of these panels here, like let's say this one on, here we go, just to show you, NZ629, stenciled on the inside of the panel by Royal New Zealand Air Force when it turned up here. But this one here, you can see the black and the yellow, that panel belongs there. You can see where the bearer goes up there and the cross wires go there. I use this as a drilling plate to build this one. It was pretty tricky. They had machines back then that could roll wire into the seams. I had to hand do all of that with cramps and a little rubber mallet, but I think it came out pretty good. Did the curved, I shrunk the middle, what would you call it, a middle rib. Did the same there, and I did that right through. Please excuse the fake Vickers machine gun. We do have a Vickers machine gun and a Lewis gun, but they are not allowed to be here without a collector's license, so they're all locked up in a vault with a gun collector. It's only because the rules changed a while back in New Zealand. As we go along, I managed it from the original panel to flitch in the door, because the ammunition belt goes through down in there into an original ammunition box, which we found in the tail, by the way. It was quite funny. The undercarriage, it broke here, there and there, so we just cut off 100mm either end of the bite of the crash, and then we machined up some pipe, fed it in and welded it. Very, very strong, no problem at all. As we come along, and I will be able to go more into different stages like the fuselage, the rear fuselage, but just to show you, these are quite recognizable for the Gordon, quite unique for them. 1, 2, 3, 4 steps to get into the pilot or to get to the gunner's bay. And these would go down and go up. When the gunner was inside, he'd push them up, and that would streamline the side of the aeroplane. We have down here an inspection port hole. The panel's probably in a tree somewhere in the South Island, but anyway, it managed to get in here. I was lucky to find a very talented upholsterer, and she came in here. It took 3 attempts, but we were able to get this side done where it is only half of the material. I've done a stiffener T-section aluminium right through the middle, and that's where I've drilled the holes, and we've just stitched it, but it all comes around and it fits right into the original panel at the back, right down the original, well, keep saying original, but I can't say enough of that, the real aluminium part here. I kept it there. It had broken right down the bottom here, so I just put that in to continue it on. All of the frames behind this, there were existing vertical ones. Even if they were broken, they were there, and every single vertical one would have a little crimp to hold the horizontals. So from that, I got the verticals pulled together, straightened with a little bit of aluminium pipe in there, and that brought it all together. And then I riveted, countersunk riveted, 10mm long tube all the way through, following the lines of the inside verticals, and it looks exactly like what it does in the old archive black and white photos. So quite pleased about that. The roundel, easy to find because I could tell from there to there, from there to there. I could get the diameters, or the radiuses, the diameters, the outside diameters, and they're all whatever it is. That's 120, that's 120, that's 120, whatever it is. I can't remember. Okay, the original gun mount, that is the existing one. It was still there.